Iraq with the Marines fighting in Fallujah.
Yeah.
And everybody talks about nation building and to what extent we're involved in trying to develop the countries that were also fighting wars. And how did your experience in Kibera affect your thinking about nation building in a place like Iraq or Afghanistan?
Well, I wanted the best practices of Kibera to make me a better Marine, and vice versa. And sometimes that happened. Sometimes the values that the military helped instill in me, integrity, teamwork, those were really useful in a context like Kibera. Vice versa, with community development, one of the most important things is the skill of listening. And that's something that as a military, and sometimes even as a nation, we could do a better job with. So there were these overlapping points, but at a fundamental level, we really didn't do it well. We didn't do the nation building work well as a military, and I think it's because we faced fundamental limitations. We're only in these environments for short periods of time, 6 months to 12 months. You're covered in body armor, you're carrying a weapon. It's difficult to build trust. It's difficult to build enduring relationships that can help unlock potential from within communities. And I think that's really the driving point of this book as they coincide between the two worlds, is that at the end of the day, the change has to come from within. So that is true in a context like Iraq. I think it's true in a context like Kibera, and I think it's one of the things we're really wrestling with Afghanistan today.
So do you view what you're doing as, in some sense, an element of foreign policy, a way of projecting kind of good things abroad, or do you see it as community organizing, or is it a combination?
Yeah, you know, it was great. We were on a panel earlier today with Professor Joe Nye, who created the theory of smart power, and one of the things that he said was he characterized our work in Kibera as civil society fundamentally outside of the large, heavy bureaucracy of governments. That have and that's important because governments have a really difficult time reaching local communities and working directly with leaders. We call it the participatory approach. So I see our role fundamentally as, for Carolina For Kibera, we're 10 years old now. We have about 5,000 members in our sports program and this large medical clinic. I see our role principally as a humanitarian one and less connected to our foreign policy. But I think the fundamental approach of participatory development can help inform our foreign policy. It can make it more sensible. We can listen better before acting. We can take the long view. We can recognize that just because we have fancy degrees does not mean that we can't learn something from somebody who's living on under $1 a day. These may sound like simple things, and in some ways they are, yet they're so often lost in the maelstrom of conflict.